WCWP.org and WXBA Brentwood. Bernie Bernard, are you there?
I am here.
Oh, how wonderful it is to hear your dulcet tones. We're sorry that you couldn't fly up this time, but next year hopefully you will. In the meantime, though, we're delighted to have you by phone in order to do what it is you've done so many times before, and that is announce the winners of the WCWP Hall of Fame. Why don't you do this, Bernie, before we get to the actual names?
Okay.
Well, tell our listeners a little bit about the Hall of Fame, what it is, how it got started, and what the criteria are for getting into it.
Well, not exactly what year. Let me see. Maybe 2012, around there.
That sounds about right, because I was
2013.
Right.
So about that, and it basically is to honor some alumni who have gone on to do things in their careers, mostly in broadcasting, but not necessarily. There are some people who have gone on to work in other fields, but it's basically the criteria is having graduated, worked at WCWP, done certain jobs in leadership capacity at WCWP, or not, being on the air, helping us to stay on the air through production engineering, PR, whatever. And then some people who have not forgotten their roots and contribute to WCWP in some way by doing a show, coming back at Homecoming, maybe some financial contributions when needed. So that's basically it.
The class of 2013 was the first. Is that the one you were in?
I believe I was in the second. It might have been 2012.
2012 was the first.
Wait a minute, hang on. Mike Chimeri is an expert. Over here, Mike, now tell us what...
2012 was the first year.
Wait a minute. Okay, the pot's up now.
Okay, 2012 was the first year.
2012 was the first year. And who do you know off the top of your head who was inducted in the first year?
Art Beltran,
right.
Hank Niemark, Dr. Herb Costin, and Virgil Jackson Lee.
Don't go away, Mike. Mike Chimeri, ladies and gentlemen, you are the official station historian.
That's what Bill Moser told me.
Actually, Michael is the station historian.
That's exactly the word I was looking for.
All right, so now 2013, can you do that one?
It was Steve Radoff, Harry Lowenthal, Bernie Bernard, and Bill Moser.
Okay, and one last one. Let's see if he remembers who was in 2014.
You, Ted David.
Okay, that's it.
Frank D'Elia.
Right.
Rita Sands. And Bill Epperhart.
Thank you. Mike Chimeri, who is our photographer and station historian extraordinaire. Much appreciated.
Yes, I hope I was in frame.
We've got it down pat now as to who did what, when. And so it's 3:42. Let's get going with this year. The Hall of Famers. Which you want to start with?
I figured I would go chronologically. All of our inductees are from the class of 1980 and beyond. Okay. The first one from the class of 1980 is Cande Roth. She was an active staff member and definitely leader at WCWP from 1977 to 1981. She contributed to basically all the musical formats, from daybreak to midnight progressive. She helped establish Radio Week, which brought working professionals to speak and mentor those aspiring to work in the music and radio field. By the time she was in her final year at Post, Cande was active in recruiting new staff members and was among those who worked with newer members to improve their skills. Cande also contributed to the news department, gathering Long Island Daily News as well as focusing on events at the time. Mm-hmm. She also served as WCWP's public service coordinator. Her first professional job in 1982 took her to Asbury Park, New Jersey, at WJLK, where she did Top 40 evenings, 7 to midnight. Now, she is also most well known as one of New York's most recognizable traffic anchors.
Yep.
In radio, she's worked with some of the best, Scott Muni, Frankie Crocker, and Howard Stern. Over the years, she was heard on dozens of radio stations across the tri-state. She had an even greater presence co-hosting and writing comedy on the Jay Thomas Show on Jammin' 105, and had a starring role in the Fathead and Cande Roth morning show on WJVC, which was a country station. For 10 years in television, Cande was an on-air personality for Good Day New York, keeping New Yorkers up to date with traffic conditions. So congratulations, Cande.
I believe I tossed to her for traffic at some point somewhere along the line, but I can hear her voice in my mind's ear because, as you pointed out, she was everywhere. All right, congratulations to Cande Roth, class of 80. Who's next, Bernie?
From the class of 81, Ellyn Solis Maurer. She was a communications major, spending most of her waking hours inside the walls of WCWP, as a lot of us did. It was not at all unusual to find Ellyn in the studio, the newsroom, or in the lounge working with and encouraging newer staff members. She served as co-news director, hosting afternoon news program and producing shows with guests from Long Island's political arena. Ellyn also did a weekly show on WCWP's Midnight Progressive. She produced a week of guest DJs called Radio Week that included Nate Griffin, Vince Gelsa, and other New York City DJs at that time. After graduating from Post, Ellyn began her career as a radio engineer at WYNY NBC Radio, with highlights including working on Sexually Speaking with the late Dr. Ruth, and spinning vinyl for the iconic Saturday with Sinatra show hosted by the late Sid Mark. She went on to be an entertainment public relations strategist and quite a powerhouse in music and entertainment, starting at Rogers & Cowan, then Atlantic Records, and then Epic Records, 550 Music, and Sony Music. She had the honor of working with Pink Floyd, Pearl Jam, Rage Against the Machine, Celine Dion, the Amnesty International Tour, featuring the Police, U2, Robert Plant, Pete Townsend, Iron Maiden, and Alice Cooper. I have to just do one quick story about Ellyn. When I was at Voice of America, I was covering the 1988 Woodstock reunion concert on the original site in Bethel. I walk into the PR tent, and there's Ellyn running the show. I'm like, oh my God. She said, don't worry. I was kind of nervous because I had to do a bunch of live feeds throughout the day, and I had to do interviews and everything. She said, don't worry, I got you. She said, if you go out to that trailer outside in 5 minutes, Richie Havens is going to be coming out. Tell him I told you to come. And then after that, she said, hang tight. I'm going to bring Pete Townsend and Donovan back here.
Oh,
so I won an award for my coverage of that event, and I will be eternally grateful to Ellyn for helping me out with that.
That's quite a list of luminaries there.
Oh, yeah. She's currently the president of her own company, E2PR, working with clients such as the K-pop sensations BTS, grunge icons Alice in Chains, Prairie Home Companions, Garrison Killer, and a whole lot of others. She is also a strategist for corporate direction and executives at Virgin Music, Photo Finish Records, and Mom and Pop Music. She has created and worked on numerous events, including working red carpets at the Grammy Awards and the Academy Awards, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and the American Music Awards and Billboard Music Awards. Congratulations, well deserved to Ellyn.
Bernie Bernard, tell her what she's won.
Right.
A plaque on the wall.
So shall we continue?
Well, so just to recap, for folks who are just tuning in by the minions and millions, we're talking to Bernie Bernard, who normally does this live here in the studio at WCWP, but this year she's doing it from her home. Next year she'll be here. And we're talking about who has been inducted into the WCWP Hall of Fame for 2025. We've already mentioned the first one, which is Cande Roth, who's class of 1980, followed by Ellyn Solis Maurer of 81. Let's bring it to the next person, class of 86.
We are going to actually jump into 1986, as you said, and Tony Traguardo, my old buddy, is one of our next inductees. Aside from production work, he worked on Post Serial, which is a great comedy program that we had, music programs like One More Saturday Night and 4F, as well as co-creating Beatle tracks, which he and his wife Winnie still broadcast. He has been working at WCWP in some capacity for 41 years and counting.
Wow.
Since graduating, Tony has been a voiceover artist, librarian, and media archivist, lecturer. He has brought media and personalities and musicians to the Tilla Center for lectures and performances, such as the late Pete Fornatel and Aztec Two-Step. In his capacity as a researcher at the Port Washington Public Library, Tony provided music for WCWP via CDs when the station was first building its digital database. He's also been a valuable resource and go-to person for assisting students with research for academic projects, especially for media and pop culture. Now, I taught at Post from 2005 to 2016, and I would always tell my students who were working on projects, papers, if it had a pop culture theme, go down the road to the Port Washington Public Library, go see Tony and tell him I sent you. And he has just been wonderful with helping students over the years, too. He is also a lecturer for Word of Mouth Studios, and he's a board member of the Long Island Music Hall of Fame.
Unbelievable. And I know Tony, and I know him to be among the nicest people I've ever met here, as well as the most dedicated and capable. So congratulations to Tony Traguardo, class of 86. And we're going to wrap it up now. But we're going to bring it into the 20th century, or 21st century, right?
That's right. From the class of 2013, I would love to welcome my former student, and I am always happy to see that my former students go on to do wonderful things, Chris Maffei. He is an accomplished audio producer with a background that spans commercial radio, podcasting, and original music production. Chris honed his skills at WCWP as an undergrad and served as production director and supported both station operations and student development. I don't know if you remember that little booth that used to be the old newsroom, which later became a production booth. You could always find Chris in there in that little tiny space with his computer and his board and his microphone. He used to create magic. He was a one-man production dynamo. I was always amazed at what he could do. Since leaving Post, he's built a career guiding audio teams, shaping content strategies while leading the audio department at Hatch, audio department at Hatch, a podcast production company focused on business storytelling. In addition to his professional work, Chris continues to compose and release original music. At Post, he served as production director, leading imaging promos and liners to support live sports and other programming. He's mentored fellow students in audio editing, storytelling, and broadcast production. He has supported station branding and managed technical workflows. He was a commercial producer at 1010 Wins from 2014 to 2020, producing ads, promos, and imaging. He's a freelance podcast producer for branded and independent podcast series, and he has released a debut album called Under No Illusions this year. He composes original music, podcast themes, and short film scores. So congratulations to my former student, Chris Maffei.
In fact, a lot of the people who may hear, like, for example, Mike Chimeri used it a lot yesterday. WCWP remembers 1923, or whatever. WCWP remembers 1965.
Right.
That's my voice being produced by him. Yes, he produced that. Yeah. He produced our IDs and so on. Bernie, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and my wife is among your biggest fans. She thinks you have...
Oh, tell Jane hi.
She's listening right now. In fact, she said to me, I'm going to tune out for the whole... And then she said, no, I have to listen because Bernie's voice is so
Jane.
delightful. And she said, you did such a great job of explaining all this. I know you would rather be here with us. We'd rather have you here with us. In just about, 8 minutes, you'll join us pre-recorded with 2 hours of the music everyone likes to hear from you. In the meantime, I'm going to play a couple more tunes here. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to do this by phone. And we'll be hearing you in 8 minutes with your own show.
Thanks, Sid.
Thank you, Maury. Bernie Moore. Her real name is Maura, so I called her Maury. All right, well, be that as it may, for those folks who have been dreaming of being inducted into the Hall of Fame, well,
7A. What number is this?
The monkeys know what you mean.
7A. Okay, not me.
7A.
Excited,
Yes.
man.
Here comes from 68. The Monkees. A Daydream Believer. That's you. That's me.
Oh, I could hide 'neath the wings of the bluebird as she sings.